Gentleman yields back. The chair recognizes Mr. Brecheen for his 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We tend to find tactics of distraction. It's what we see happening with people that are trying to stop ICE from deportation efforts. We see that happening in the committee, and H.R. 2 is not law. What H.R. 2 was designed to do is to stop the $6 billion. That's an entire state budget. Many of us think about the size of your state budget. $6 billion under the Biden administration went to these non-government organizations, many of which are 100% federally funded, like Endeavors, that reach the size of Save the Children. Ms. Hopper, you mentioned that in your testimony. Save the Children, been around for generations. It's designed that is privately funded. This Endeavors non-government organization went from $52 million and went to over $1 billion because of government funding. Ms. Hopper, you talked about the NGOs being complicit. I don't know how many were stirred by your conversation about the 17-year-old child that was placed with someone that was discovered from the Office of Refugee Resettlement, had tattoos resembling that of MS-13 gang members. It was reported, supervisors overruled that. A month or two later, the 17-year-old is found dead. A man passed out, has pants de-pantsed, sexual activity being absolutely implied. And you're talking about all the different ways that these NGOs who got rich, $700,000 CEO figures for the CEO of Endeavors, and that man needs to be held accountable, John Almonds. We're talking about children that were ushered into the interior of the United States. These NGOs profited from it. Cozy relationships with the Democrat administration. Who knows what political payback there is? Who knows how many of those dollars that are still retained? When you're talking $1 billion retained by these organizations, who knows how many of the activities that are trying to stop deportation are still, those dollars are reproducing after themselves? Who knows how many times we will also see in New York City people being taught how to evade ICE, we know as NGOs. This is a lawmaking exercise. We hold these hearings to hold people accountable for the misuse of taxpayer funds. This is evil. And we haven't solved it, and we have to have legislation to stop any future administration from co-opting FEMA dollars and repurposing for these nefarious ends. All right, Mr. Howell, you all did a project where you took these NGOs, these 230 NGOs, some of them out of country helping bring people in, some of them in country working as an Uber service. You all did a $30,000 data search on cell phones, and you found among these 230 organizations, of which 15 United Nations spends by the U.S. government, funneled through the UN, ended up into some of these NGOs. You all found that you tracking 30,000 cell phones, that the Uber service, these organizations getting rich, went to every congressional district in this committee hearing, not just every congressional district in this hearing, every congressional district in the United States, moving unaccompanied minors, children to these sponsors. Only 4 congressional districts out of 435 congressional districts where these NGOs were not moving people. The gentleman who raped and murdered Laken Riley was among the list, who had 2 trips where he went to New York City, paid for at NGO expense. I'm sorry, taxpayer expense funneled through these non-government organizations. I need to let you talk.
You're absolutely right, sir. So for our study back in 2022, in this country, in towns across it, we're seeing flights being dropped off in the middle of the night with no advance notice. Citizens were living in fear. We decided to do a small, very small sample size of that huge mass of the NGO blob. We looked at only 30 locations for a 1-month period, grabbed the cell phone movement in and out of them, 30,000 devices, and from that very small sample size, they went to every single congressional district.
I've got 19 seconds left. I want to say this. You also report that in New York, you saw that these funds were being used for shelter programs, providing false residency documents to illegals, showing them how to provide false documents. Other NGO you found in Mexico tied into this, illegal alien camps that had flyers telling people, don't forget to vote for Biden. You had NGOs advising illegals to lie to law enforcement to evade ICE, all a part of the organization's information. We need to spend more time on this because this could still continue in the future, absent legislation prohibiting and cranking the screws down to make sure this is never repeated. I yield.